some of the things that the community hasn't taken too much of a liking to. I think probably the main thing I've seen most complaints about would be sunsetting. That has not been. I think from what I've seen, the general consensus seems to be that it is necessary. I think most people can agree that sunsetting does need to happen, but I think a lot of people agree that it hasn't been done correctly and too much has been taken away. I think there's just a couple. I think there's things that they can probably fix with some updates. Like one of the main things is you've got the Dreaming City and Moon loot drops are sunset.
Useless.
Like you've got two destinations which stayed, which especially the Moon is recent, it's brand new. Dreaming City is kind of recent and is going to be big next year with Witch Queen and Savathun, we'd assume, with the Dreaming City curse. But it's weird having the Moon and Dreaming City drop irrelevant sunset loot. You've got, the raids you can infuse the gear, which is cool. Like I've been using my Nation of Beasts, the hand cannon.
Yep.
But it is weird seeing, like a lot of locations dropping gear that can't even be infused or is just like automatically irrelevant.
I got to agree, and it does hurt with the Dreaming City, but I think it, as you said, hurts even more with the Moon because again, those
very
weapons,
recent.
Yeah, they've been out for a year. I still lament the fact that those are not being brought forward because I had a perfect Tranquility for PvE, and I sat there and I thought to myself, like, yes, I want to use this. This will be a core part of my builds and stuff if ever I need a long range damage option that isn't an exotic for the next raid. And lo and behold, here we are. It's never going to get used now. You know, like it makes me incredibly sad because there's so many great roles on those too, you know? And something else to think about. Sunsetting isn't just something that I think people are right to complain about to a certain extent when it comes to losing certain parts of the sandbox that could be powerfuls, but also there's a variety question to throw in there. And what I mean by that is this. I look at the current stock of machine guns in the game, right?
Yeah.
Because at current, when you're not looking and including sunset stuff, you have two, right? And that's the one you can get from Varex for the Empire hunts, and that's the Seven Seraphs one, which is no longer obtainable.
Hardly anyone has.
Yeah, I mean, it required you to grind during Season of the Worthy, and that's not something everybody was doing at the time. So yeah, there are some options in the game that are unbelievably bare bones. Now, we'll get a third. If you look in the collections and you look under the raid card, there is a heavy machine gun in Void. It's basically the replacement Hammerhead. It's the same archetype, looking very similar in terms of a lot of stuff, but that leaves three heavy machine guns that players can use.
Yeah.
And that is not a lot, especially considering that by the time sunsetting had kind of finished out, we'd only just about expanded out to have 9 heavy machine guns. By Season of the Worthy, before we learned about sunsetting, we had this moment where we had suddenly got a 360 archetype weapon for every element, and the same for 450 and 900. So you had one of each element in each archetype, just like you'd barely got all your bases covered. And now it's incredibly restrictive if you want to go ahead and use certain weapons in certain situations with, certain elements. And it's just, there is a variety point that needs to be put out there. I can understand that adding an entire new set of subclasses to the game is a huge commitment, but it really does make me hope that if they're going to address some of this sunsetting concern, that they should go ahead and put in more heavy weapons, more weapons that are generally lacking in variety in their archetype that have been sunset, as a way of compensating. Because right now, player choice is really stymied. Now, to your point as well, though, was it necessary? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what kills me, because much as Destiny is a game where I'd love to explore every facet of it all the time, we cannot get to the point at which Call of Duty has gotten, we can't get to the point where it now no longer fits on a 250 gigabyte SSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Destiny was not that bad, but it was seriously approaching that point,
I think it was nearly 200. It was close to 200, I think.
Yeah, it was between 150 and 170, I want to say, but at that point, you took a game and you shaved off a lot of it. And so making that more, Yeah, just making that more effective in terms of people's hard drive space is not necessarily a bad thing. I feel every argument with regards to sunsetting.
Yeah.
I just sit here and I wonder what the solution would have been otherwise, and I don't see an easy one for Bungie.
When you're taking people's loot away, it's never gonna go down like well. Like there's always gonna be a very large. There's no easy way to take people's loot away, or not take it away, just make it irrelevant. Give it the little white stamp, and just like nope, you can't use that anymore. On that, you mentioned about the file size. Do we know what the new? How much has the file size been reduced? Do you know off the top of your head?
God, I want to say it's now under 100 gigabytes. If I'm remembering the patch install, I'd need... Actually, let me look this up on Steam if it's
axed? Okay. Yeah, go for it. I'm
take
curious to know how many gigabytes did they just like axe out of the game?
I mean, according to my Steam, the disk usage for Destiny is now 56,490 megabytes, which is 56 gigs. So if that's true, they shaved well over 100 gigs off the game.
Is that the total thing on your hard drive? How much it requires?
Yeah, that's what it's telling me through Steam's properties. I don't know if that's including all of the files, so I'll need to go ahead and see if I can find another thing for that. But based on that alone, that's incredible. I'd need to... Yeah, I really think that's got to be too small at that point.
It's probably somewhere between there and maybe 80 to 100. It's
I would have thought 82. I'm mystified at that because I really did think it was about 80 off the top of my head. Like, at least I think I saw it downloading 80. But even so, yeah, it's been significantly sized down, and that's not a bad thing. You know, like especially if we're looking to add more stuff in the future that will not only have staying power, but will also be large in terms of its things like destination sizes, right? Destination sizes, maybe throwing in new content and activities on a regular basis with these seasons. That's where I think we need to look for sunsetting to really show that it was worth it, is here and in these future seasons. You know, like we've just come off the cut of it. And so obviously we've experienced this huge loss. Now we need to see what they replace all of that lost content with. You know, and a single release was not going to do all of it, basically.
I was going to say exactly that. This is the worst, like most harsh point to observe sunsetting, because this is like we've just lost the most, and then over the next 3 years they're going to splice in the 3 expansions, and you know by Lightfall it'll be a full wide game again. But right now it's like we've just lost almost everything, and and even the expansion isn't even fully rolled out yet, so it does seem like we've lost a lot more.